Welcome to Under the Hood with Petty Details, and I'm Jen, and this is Justin. Today, well, first of all, we're having a storm, so if the quality is off, if we're a little choppy here and there, we wanted to get this video out to you in time, so we have to do it during a storm. So, what we're going to be talking about today is the appraisal clause and under the hood of the process of appraisal clause, which is what Justin has to deal with on a daily basis, going back and forth on these appraisal clause cases, whether it be a valuation, a value dispute, or a repair dispute, and the kinds of negotiations he has to go through, the kinds of appraisers he has to deal with, and sometimes the kinds of difficult appraisers that he has to deal with. So, Justin, I'm going to let you talk about it. Go ahead.
So that's right. Good intro. It is exactly what we're going to do is look behind the scenes about what I'm talking about with these other appraisers. I'm going to read some verbatim off of emails between this. But let me give you a little background of the case. So it's a 2011 Lexus, and it's an IS 250. So it's when we got the assignment, the owner had clicked that it had the luxury trim on it. And I think that was a mistake. He just did that because he had the ventilated seats. And we get into that a little bit more later. But so there was some confusion about whether it had luxury trim or not to begin with. And I think this guy filled out our web form and he clicked luxury, but he meant premium. So he had the premium package, but he had ventilated seats. And I don't know, he might have thought he had the luxury. I don't know, but after investigation, it did not have the luxury package. So basically, here's what happened is we first ran a number at about 10.7 on this vehicle. This is in July, well, a couple of months ago, maybe a month ago in June, where so we're looking at June 2025. This vehicle was worth about 10.7 with the luxury package. Okay, and then we sent our info to the other appraiser. It was an appraiser I knew and I've dealt with a lot, and it's a company that works almost exclusively for insurance companies. So they have a lot, the insurance industry has a lot of influence on this company. And that's apparent when I deal with this particular individual. So what happened was he looked at the vehicle and he said it's not a luxury. He ran a event analysis on it, and he said it's not a luxury. And so I pulled the Monroney label to see. Then I called the owner to try to check because it was a little tricky to figure it out. It did have ventilated seats, and this is like a
It
mid.
had like
It's like,
everything except for the wheels or something like that.
yeah, and I mean, it had a lot of the stuff, but it was one of those things where in 2011 the early ones didn't have it, and the later premium ones did have ventilated seats, but only luxury had it up to that point. So they added the ventilated seats to the premium package later in the year in 2011. So that caused a little confusion because luxury is supposed to be the one that has ventilated seats. This one did clearly, and we looked at that and we're like, oh yeah, it's a luxury, but it wasn't. It was a late model premium. Anyway, so the other appraiser pointed that out, and so here's the email string that started after that. And I was like, okay. So I responded back to, hey, Mr. So-and-so, so we reran our comps to account for the non-luxury. You were right. The trim was not luxury trim. It was premium. And see attached. So I attached my rerun of our comps. I said, can you reconsider settling at the 9,200 that I had already offered? Because we had negotiated some before he brought up this issue of it being a of non-luxury trim. So I had already offered this 9,200, and this new report. So originally it was 10.7. After I took the luxury trim off, it was 9.9. Okay, so around that, I'm rounding those numbers, but that 9.9 versus 10.7 for the luxury trim. So then um, here's the next email from him. He said, I still believe my 9,000 is very fair considering your new report and comps. So my new report and comps was 9,900. They're all very good comps, all right in the same area. I mean, each one of them is close to that 9,900 mark. The average it wasn't a big spread on our comps. They were all, real close to this. And he's like, well, that's unfair. Well, I'm still nearly $1,000 less than the comps on this. So what do you mean? So here's how I responded. He said, I still believe 9,000 is very fair for considering your new report and comps. And I responded, well, why does your belief trump mine? You can't give a little bit to variation of opinion. I mean, that's exactly what I said to him. I just was like, well, why? What do you mean? That's not a good argument that you just think it's fair. That doesn't work, So, okay. So that was that response. Then we go to the next one. And after I made that little comment, it's like, why does your belief trump mine? He got his feelings hurt, it seems like, because he's like, well, respectfully, you improperly valued this the first time, inflating your original value, and you're still offering the same split of that report and mine, because that's what he wanted to do on the first one, is just split it. And I was like, well, that gets pretty close. And so I considered that and made that counter. And then he says, even after you've updated your comps to reflect the correct trim, how does that make any sense? Why would I agree to a split of an improper inflated report? The new split would be 88.25. And so that'd be less than my $9,000 offer. So that's exactly how I did add the voice and the attitude into that. So just so you
It's
know.
accurate.
So so then I responded back to him. I said, mistakes happen. I would wager you've made a few, but that doesn't mean I will imply that you're incompetent or sloppy. Our new report has great representative examples of comps, and I believe it's an accurate reflection of value at 99.59. I tell you what, I'll do 9,100 to make this go away. So then he responds back and he's like, okay, I understand that mistakes can happen during the process. However, resubmitting the same offer without providing any meaningful update doesn't reflect the collaborative approach that I typically aim for. I did not
Hmm.
reduce my offer to a split of our new reports. And then he said, I stand by the accuracy and the fairness of my valuation. With that in mind, I believe my continued offer of 9,000 is more than reasonable and reflects a good faith effort to reach a resolution to make this go away. And so let me give you a little insight before I responded to that. So what I'm thinking when I hear that is like, he just wants me to give him $9,000 on this, and I've already gave him 800, and I'm willing to give him 900 just to try to get it resolved. And we're fighting over $100 right now, $100. All right. And I'm right. I mean, the value is what it is. And you're fixing to find that out in this next little string here. Here is my next response. So he made the mistake of challenging me to criticize his report, which I had
He
not done.
poked the bear. He poked the bear.
And he wouldn't provide us with his listings. He just gave us the VIN number and said this was what the value of the
And
car was,
refused to
and
send us a copy of them.
would not give us the printouts of what comps he was using so we could research that. So I had to dig. I had to run searches on VIN numbers and scour to find these listings with only a VIN number, and maybe a lie, frankly, on where he got the source from, which I exposed. So here's what I responded back. All right, fine. Well, let's take a look at your comps. Your number one comp is nowhere to be found on the internet except on eBay. And it was not listed at the number you put in your report. It was listed for hire. Your comp
Hmm.
number two is the only comp listed that's even close to the ballpark. Even the listing itself compares it to the fair value, stating the listing price of $9,900 is fair per Edmunds, and it aligns with our corrected comps average. And then your comp number three is in terrible condition with ripped leather on the driver's seat, and clearly he's been wrecked and repaired. That was the right front side. I didn't put that in there, but I know he knows. And so then I asked him, you still believe that your comps are a fair representation of the value of the subject vehicle? $9,100 gets this settled, and that's extremely fair amount. Let's move on from this one. And that was my last email to him. And so he was responding pretty quickly up to that last one. Now
Hmm.
it's been a day and he hasn't responded to that last one because he got caught. His comps are fake. He picked two super low comps that have accident histories, guaranteed. The eBay one, guaranteed it's got
Crappy
accident
condition,
history.
can't find
Terrible.
them. eBay, please.
Right. Then he used another
eBay
one that was
listing.
he's found these very obscure comps that are listed low with no info about
And
them.
then acting like we're cherry picking.
Right. And then the only comp that he found that was realistic was at the exact same number that our average of real comps was.
Right.
And he wants to play hardball. Why is he doing that? He knows very well that that value at 9,900 is the accurate value. He just will not admit to it because of some unknown pressure potentially that he has from maybe a big carrier that he has a contract with, that
Well,
if
maybe when
they,
the insurance
make them
carrier
mad,
pays your bills, you can't really make your own decisions because that's
well,
ridiculous.
yeah, I mean that's it for this episode. Next week, during the next week, we're going to upload a few more. I'm going to have a guest on for our next Saturday. This is the next Saturday. We're going to talk about salvage and salvage retention and
Mm.
what the advantages are, and a case study with one of my customers that did that. And so we'll
Hopefully
get
we can nail
into
him down.
that
He's
part.
really busy. He goes all around the country like
Yeah,
video
he
and
does.
like doing awesome stuff.
Yeah, yes, they do what camera video,
I can't tell you, like I
production.
would,
What they do a lot.
yeah.
He's always got a camera on a dolly and a gimbal going places
Oh
for sure.
God, there you
Yeah.
go. Whatever. Yeah. So next week for that, and we'll also be coming out with a few more videos here coming up quick about a few other subjects. So stay tuned and thank you for supporting us, and thanks for watching the Petty Details.